Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Gurudev ki. Today we are very fortunate to have His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj. Bhanu Swami Maharaj ki. His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj is a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He has been in the movement for more than 50 years, serving Srila Prabhupada and this movement. Bhanu Maharaj is an expert in many areas. Particularly, Bhanu Maharaj is one of our big scholars in ISKCON. Maharaj has personally translated more than 120 books of our acharyas, and he is still continuing. Maharaj is an expert in architecture, astrology, Reiki, and so many other fields. So we are very fortunate today to have His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj. I request Maharaj to talk a few words on the importance of Vyasa puja ceremony. Hare Krishna.
Down a little bit. Okay. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadesha Tadane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we read Srila Prabhupada's books, we'll find that he often mentions the concept of guru and how we have to follow the instructions of the guru and give him proper respect. And we'll find sections of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and other works about that. So this is nothing new. It's actually a very ancient tradition. And we'll see that when Prabhupada gives these explanations, he also gives quotations, usually from Upanishads, which are Shruti, Vedas. So, and the Vedas are the basis of all Vedic knowledge. So, and they're also the oldest scriptures. So, the concept of respect for the guru is always there. And it's also explained that you really cannot advance in spiritual life unless you accept guru. And that by proper respect to the guru, then the meanings of the scriptures are revealed. Yeah? So that's a very prominent concept. And it's also practiced in ancient India. Of course, these quotations are from the Upanishads, and they're actually in the context of certain sages and certain people who approach them for knowledge. And then they give knowledge about Brahman, basically. And then they have these verses here to show that you have to accept a guru to get the knowledge. So this type of guru actually is actually a guru who was teaching. He's giving knowledge. And because he gives the knowledge, you have to give him respect. Now, of course, we use these quotes not just for a guru who gives knowledge, we're also using this for Diksha Guru. So most people associate the worship of Guru with Diksha Guru, but actually the quotes that are given are actually quotes concerning a Shiksha Guru. That he's the one that reveals knowledge to you, and you have to give him respect like you worship the Supreme Lord, etc. So all this is actually for a Shiksha Guru. In either case, all types of gurus who are giving us spiritual guidance, we have to give proper respect. And we can ask the reason for that, why we have to respect anybody. But we'll find that it's not just a spiritual concept. It goes over into the material world also. So even your material teacher, you have to respect. So if you have a music teacher, you have to give him proper respect. If you don't respect him, he's not going to teach you anything. So, in other words, the idea of getting knowledge is based on some sort of relationship of respect. And that's not only in India. We'll find that in other countries like Japan also the same thing is there. Even the high school teacher gets the proper respect. Otherwise, he won't teach. So the idea of respect is there also in Bhagavad Gita. We will see in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, then it's all about Jnana Yoga and getting knowledge. And then Krishna says that the person who has the knowledge, Tattvavit, he will give you the knowledge. And then he defines the disciple as one who is pranipata, who falls down, which means he offers respects, of course, but that is representative of the respect that he is giving to the guru. That's one of his qualifications. He gives proper respect. So that proper respect is necessary in order that there is a transfer of knowledge. If a person does not respect the knowledge, or the person who's giving the knowledge, he actually can't receive the knowledge properly. He will not understand it, or he will misuse it, or whatever. He'll corrupt it, or whatever. So, therefore, that humble attitude is very, very necessary. It's like the natural way in which knowledge is transmitted. From just like water flows from a high place to a low place, naturally. So knowledge flows from one person to another, from one person in a higher position to another person in a lower position. Or we can just say that a knowledge comes from a person who has knowledge to a person who doesn't have knowledge. And if we think we have knowledge, then we can't receive that knowledge. So, in other words, we do have to be very humble and admit we don't know. And then we are open to receive anything. Prabhupada gives the example of the music teacher. So one person who wants to get the knowledge, he goes to the music teacher, violin teacher, let's say, and he asks, okay, you please give me some lessons. So then the violin teacher says, okay, very good. Do you know anything? And said, well, yeah, I've been studying for 2 years already. And then the teacher says, okay, fine. That's 200 rupees a lesson. Okay. And then another person comes along and says to the teacher, I want to take lessons. How much is it? And then the teacher says, have you taken any lessons before? He says, no. And he says, okay, 10 rupees a lesson. So the first student is listening. Well, I already know something. Why are you charging me 10 times more? And the teacher says, well, we have to unlearn everything first. So it's harder because you learned all the wrong things. So we got to empty your mind out first, and then we got to put the new knowledge in. So therefore, the disciple has to be there and not think he knows everything, think he knows nothing, and then he gives proper respect. Then he can receive the knowledge. So that is a good qualification if you're interested in accepting a guru, either Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, that you also have to have that attitude. And that's why we do have these ceremonies, like the Vyasa puja ceremony, to indicate our respect. But it's not just it's a one-day affair in the whole year, one annual respect, and then we forget. It actually has to be a daily affair. So therefore, one of the rules when we do deity worship, this archana, in archana itself, there's an inbuilt rule there. Before you do the archana, you have to worship Guru first to show that we are submitting ourselves to a guru. Then we're qualified to worship the Supreme Lord. So in any case, this is one of the qualifications of the disciple. If we want to be a disciple, then we have to have that humble attitude and understand we don't know anything. And the whole purpose there is to get the knowledge. Secondly, if we are really eager for knowledge, then we will be inquisitive to get that knowledge. We'll have questions about that. So that's the second thing that Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. He says, pariprashnena, which means thorough questioning. So the disciple has to be thoroughly inquisitive when he approaches Guru, which means he has to be eager to get the knowledge. So he's not only humble, but he has quest for knowledge. So if you're just humble, but you don't want any knowledge, that's also useless. So we have very humble people like that, but they don't really want to learn anything. That's also not a good disciple. So the real disciple also has to be inquisitive. But the inquisitiveness also is not just inquisitive about any question under the sun. How far is the moon? How far is the sun away? Please tell me, Guru. Or, what's the population of Earth? Or how deep is the ocean? That's not the kind of question we're supposed to ask. We have thorough questioning about spiritual topics, about how we're going to advance in devotional service. As we see in the case of Rupa and Sanatan when they approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they have grass in their mouth and they're crawling on the floor, like this, even though they were very wealthy and they were ministers of the king. They're very, very humble in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then they say, okay, you please tell us, how do we get delivered from the world of samsara? How do we get out of this material world? Please give us the method. So the questions have to be about spiritual life. Now, of course, because we already are presuming everybody is interested in bhakti yoga, we don't have to ask that type of question. But we do have to ask the question about how can I advance in devotional service? What is the favorable things I should do, etc. And if we do have problems, then we go to Guru to get advice on how to overcome those problems in our devotional service. So those are the types of questions that we have, thorough questioning about that. That's one thing about the advancement of bhakti. The other is the questions on tattva, or let me say the philosophical aspects, because that's also very important for advancement. Though generally we think, okay, knowledge is not so important because we have all devotion and emotion and feeling, etc. We do need a grounding in basic philosophy. And that's why Prabhupada wrote all these books. So we have to have a philosophical background. So therefore, we can ask knowledge about tattva, about what is the truth. Who is Krishna? Why is he like this? What is a devotee? What is devotional service? What is rasa? All these topics are the things we can ask. But we're not going to ask questions about, well, when can I get married? Who should I get married to? How many children should I have? Where do I get them educated? Etc. These are not the questions we're supposed to ask. So therefore, it's the pariprashna is all spiritual. So the disciple has to have that eagerness to advance in devotional service and ask questions concerning that. That's another good qualification. The third qualification mentioned there in Bhagavad Gita is Seva. And so it's pariprashna Seva. Yeah. So Seva, of course, means service. So we have a service attitude, and that can be, of course, visibly manifest in terms of different services we can do personally for the Guru if we get the chance, like sweeping the floor or whatever. Or, more important, is to follow the instructions concerning advancement in devotional service. So in other words, we have this inquisitive attitude to ask all the questions and we get the answers, but we don't do anything with the answers. What's the use? So whatever answers we get, we have to implement properly. So that's the ultimate service, to follow the instructions of the Guru. That's the highest service we can do. We can do the other services, of course, as Krishna and Balaram, they were collecting firewood every day for the sacrifice of the Sandipani Muni. But that's good. But again, we have to ultimately follow the instructions of the Guru. That's the highest service we can do. And of course, what's the highest instruction of the Guru? People get different instructions, but there's one central instruction in the commentary of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur on the verse Vyavasayamaka Buddhi in the Bhagavad Gita. It talks about your intelligence has to be directed one-pointedly towards Krishna and not divided up into different material interests, etc. Not many branched knowledge, one-pointed knowledge like that. So in relation to that, in the commentary, Vishnu Chakravarti talks about this one-pointed intelligence. So there he says that the intelligence is such that You take the order of Guru as your life-sustaining medicine. As we see even in the modern world, some people get sick, they may have diabetes or heart condition, and the doctor gives them a prescription like that. And he says, you better take the prescription. If you don't take it, you're going to die. So it's a life-sustaining prescription of medicine. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that there's a life-sustaining order, the order of Guru, that we have to follow. If we don't follow it, then we die spiritually. So we have to follow that order. So what is that instruction? And of course, the ultimate instruction is to serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. So that's the ultimate instruction. We somehow have to engage ourselves in that service. So in any case, we have these three elements which are quite important for the disciple in approaching a guru or spiritual master. And if we are serious about spiritual advancement and accepting a guru, then we should see that these qualifications are intact in us so that we can approach properly and seriously. And then when we accept guru, then our worship will also be very effective. Now, the idea of worship itself is a show of respect. On the one hand, it's a show of respect, but it is also an admission of our own fallen nature and our lack of qualification, etc., in face of someone who has proper knowledge, etc. So and as I said, with that respect, then we actually get the transfer of knowledge, which is the function of the guru. So therefore, we do that type of worship, but we should have the proper attitude in that type of worship. So on the other hand, we have the opposite type of worship we can do, which is superficial worship. As Srila Prabhupada mentioned, after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance, then they would have their annual Vyasa puja for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Years went by and they were making offerings, etc. So Srila Prabhupada wrote one offering for Bhaktisiddhanta. And in that offering, then he says that, we have to worship Guru and respect Guru. But then he says, what is the use of all these fruits and flowers, all the pomp that you're doing to worship your Guru with? Because actually you're not following his order. He wanted you to stay united and preach, but you're not preaching at all. So what is this worship? So therefore the worship is connected with our own conduct and our own willingness to follow the order of Guru properly. And if we do that, then the worship is actually very sincere. So therefore, we have these arrangements for worship, etc., but we should have sincerity behind that and make sure that we're actually following very nicely the instructions of Guru. So, another point, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita there, in one of the commentaries, there is of course, because there's a little pastime there, and I think it's Nityananda Prabhu is celebrating Guru Puja, because there's Guru Purnima, which is quite famous in India. So on that day, then they worship Guru. Everybody worships Guru. But in the commentary, then Prabhupada says, well, actually, the real Guru Puja should be on the actual appearance day of your personal Guru, not some general day for everybody. It's not a general Guru Puja, it's specifically for your Guru. Now, the idea behind that, why he is saying that, is that, as I mentioned, that since ancient times, the process has been that you have a guru and you respect the guru, and then he gives you the knowledge. So there's a personal relationship established between you and that person. So therefore, we're not talking about general guru here, we're talking about personal guru. So therefore, you have to do the worship and respect for the personal guru. That does not, however, indicate that I worship Guru and I worship nobody else, I don't respect anybody else. It doesn't mean that. And in fact, you can have many gurus. And in fact, as pointed out in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can have many Shiksha Gurus, you can only have one Diksha Guru, but the Shiksha Gurus and the Diksha Guru are actually the same. And you cannot worship one better or worse than the other. They're all worshipped equally. So therefore, you worship all the gurus. It's not just one guru. You can worship many gurus. Yeah? So therefore, we shouldn't have this idea that I worship guru, but I don't give any respect to anybody else. Yeah? We do worship, and we have the personal relationship. But that we may also have relationships with other devotees from whom we're also getting valuable knowledge. So we have to give respect there also. So it's not just a one-pointed type of worship. It's a worship that goes in many directions. And in relation to that, then, we have another important point, and that is, of course, we have many Shiksha Gurus. Can't have many Shiksha Gurus. We have only one Diksha Guru. But we also have another important guru, and that's Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder of our movement. So he's another type of Shiksha Guru. Now, he's not directly present, but Prabhupada was very intelligent, so therefore he wrote all these books, which are the basis of our movement. So in that way, and of course they're printed and preserved by BBT and distributed by ISKCON. So those books are the basis of our knowledge. And therefore we have to give him the proper respect as the founder of our movement. So we have many ways in which we have to worship and give respect. And we may say, oh, I cannot worship so many people, I just got to worship one person like that. But if we say that, then that means you can't worship Krishna? You worship Guru, but we're not going to worship Krishna? No, we're worshiping Krishna, we're worshiping Radha, we're worshiping Lord Chaitanya, we're worshiping the Srimad, we worship Guru, so we're worshiping many people already. So why not worship all the Gurus also and worship Srila Prabhupada? So in the Krishna Bhajanamrita there, it's explained that yes, we have to give proper respect, like we give respect to our father, traditionally. Okay, you respect your father. But then, father has brothers, he's your uncles. You also have to respect them equally. So it's not just one respect. I can only worship father, I got to worship all the brothers. But then, there's a grandfather. So you have to worship him double. So he's first generation, he's the father of your father, so you have to give more worship. So therefore, even in material world, we do have many persons who we have to give respect, and respect on different levels. So within our spiritual life also, we can have that system of worshiping many, respecting many, and of course then worshiping Prabhupada as the founder and giving him the most respect. So we have a special Vyasa puja for Srila Prabhupada also. So therefore we have to take a very balanced perspective when we do all this worship and not get sidetracked into thinking there's only one type of worship for my particular Diksha Guru. There's many types of worship, and there's also the worship of Srila Prabhupada. So, and the idea is that worship is there to give the respect so that we get the knowledge. It's not for other purposes. It's not for prestige or any material fame or whatever. It's only so we can get that knowledge so we can advance in devotional service. So that's the basic essence of why we do the Vyasa puja. Okay. Any question? Pastimes. Well, one time Prabhupada asked, okay, what is the remarkable thing about this movement? So, and then he answered, actually, the remarkable thing is that the knowledge has come down intact for generation after generation after generation without change. So that's one remarkable fact about our knowledge that we're getting, which means that our knowledge comes within a parampara system and a sampradaya. So the aspect of sampradaya, etc., is often emphasized also. There's one story about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and people would always come to him and say, oh, there's this saintly person, that saintly person, whatever. So then some person said, oh, this so-and-so, he's a very, very great devotee of Krishna. He's so renounced and so attached to Krishna. You have to meet him. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, what is his sampradaya? And then the person says, he doesn't have a sampradaya. He just kind of came out of nowhere. So then Bhaktisiddhanta said, I'm not interested in meeting him. So we do have an emphasis upon traditional knowledge coming down through our acharyas and coming down to the present time. So that's very important for us. There may be many great people who have some sort of realization, but nevertheless, it has to be somehow centered on some sort of tradition of knowledge, whatever. It has to be some bona fide authorized sampradaya. So that was an important point that Prabhupada gave.
Maharaj, you were talking about that we should not ask the Guru about material things like where should I work or this thing and that thing. But in many cases in our, as a Grahastha life, we see that whether it would be detrimental to our Krishna consciousness or not, we don't know how to make that decision. So is it wrong to go to the Guru in that case and ask the question as to whether making a change in this way, is it going to be detrimental for my Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, so would a certain change, let's say in job, be detrimental or not? So can you ask Guru? You could, but then if he gives the wrong answer, what happens? Now, which means he may give one answer, it turns out you follow that, and then you don't make any money, or your whole projection of your plans is a failure, then you blame the Guru. He made the wrong decision because he's supposed to know everything, and he doesn't know everything. So you lose faith. So that's the problem in that. If you come, however, with the thing, okay, I'll get his advice, not that it's absolute, because he doesn't know what this job is or that, whether it's IT job or hardware job or whatever, and the amount of pay and how you have to work every day and who your boss is. He doesn't know all those details, but he can give some general information, and then he leave it up to you to judge. Okay, this one's better because of this, or that one's worse because of that. So because that information, fine. But if you're expecting him to give an absolute order that's going to make you successful, then that's dangerous, because it may not work out that way. And then you lose faith because of that. But the idea is that we're not expecting them to be all knowledgeable of everything in the material world, including all your family affairs and all the other thousands of disciples' family affairs. How it can do that? It's impossible. You can't know everything about everything. So therefore, there's an over-expectation often on that. Of course, and the other thing, of course, and the Guru may refuse because of that. To give advice who you should marry. So sometimes gurus do that. They get married to this person, get married to that, and then they have a fight, and then they're separate, and then they divorce and whatever. So then you blame Guru, he got us married. So, this becomes dangerous when we do things like that. Oh, well, okay. Let's see. Okay, I first met him in India, in Calcutta. I think it's 1971 or so, like that. This was the period when Bengal was going through a Naxalite crisis with all the communists throwing bombs everywhere and all this like that. And then Prabhupada came there from the West via Japan. So we didn't quite know what to expect, whatever like that. So Prabhupada came, and Jayapataka Swami and Achyutananda Swami were there in Calcutta. So they're responsible for taking care of Srila Prabhupada and making all the arrangements there. So they did the best they could, whatever. I think Jayapataka Swami had been there for maybe 6 months already, or something like that. And Achyutananda had been there for a few years, I think. And he was living with the Gaudiya Mutt first, and then he was with Jayapataka Maharaj. But at that time, they were not sannyasis. They were just brahmacharis. But then, when I was there, that's when he actually gave them sannyas, because there was some problem in America and whatever like that. So then he said, okay, give my disciples sannyas. So at that time, they both got their sannyas. So that was in Calcutta. But as I said, the atmosphere there was rather unsettled because of the whole political thing going on there at the same time. And also, if you're maybe familiar with that time period, there was some sort of hostility also towards religion in general, whatever any religion like that. Also, obviously, because it was communists who were making this thing, and they didn't like religion. So there was a lot of, anti-ISKCON, anti-Hare Krishna, anti-everything going on at the time. So we did have to be very careful about how we managed ourselves. So Jayapataka Maharaj and Achyutananda Maharaj, they were in a rather difficult position to try to, preach in that type of situation, but they managed to do so. And eventually Prabhupada then, he bought some land in Mayapur, the first land there, which is also very difficult to do at that time, just to negotiate one little land deal, and it wasn't very expensive or whatever, but it takes a lot of work to do. And then he put Jayapataka Maharaj in charge of it, and it was just a big paddy field. So he had to stay there and manage the paddy field. And so he was the one that constructed the first building there. That's the first building that came up, the guest house. No, before that. Yeah. No. The first building, the first guest house. Yeah, the Lotus building. Yeah, that was the first one he built, and then later they started the long building after that, and then the gate, which so originally actually it was the wall, and that's where the people had to live. The boundary wall was little rooms. That's where everyone had to live originally. But before that, then they didn't even have that to live in. They had to live in grass huts or whatever, until they got even the guest house built like that. So it was all a big struggle and a lot of austerity. And at that time, you couldn't get concrete. You couldn't get, the iron for the thing. It's very difficult to do anything there. So Jayapataka Maharaj had to struggle with all of these people to get all the stuff, the government permissions, like this, money, etc. It was a big, big struggle. Very, very great austerity. So those were actually the first years of his, years in India. But he survived all of that. So it's a very remarkable thing.
One question, as we learned that chanting is very important and we should do chanting in the morning. Sometimes if we get like as a grasta, family service or any other service, how should we prioritize, what should we do first?
No. Yeah. So the question is about chanting, and chanting is the most important. We should chant early in the morning, but then we have families, so what should we do? Well, as far as a family is concerned, and as far as Hare Krishna is concerned, chanting the Maha Mantra, there is no rule when you have to chant or whatever. So that makes it a little more flexible. Some rules in spiritual life, no, you have to do it at this particular time, every day, or it doesn't have any effect. But no, chanting the Maha Mantra is effective anytime, anywhere, any circumstance. So we can always adapt our vows of how long or how many rounds we're going to chant, and we can adjust it according to our schedule. So we shouldn't be too fanatical about that. We can be very flexible. As long as when we do that, we make the adjustment, we make sure we don't miss it completely. And when we are doing it, we are attentive as well. So therefore, it doesn't really matter when you do it, as long as you work it into your daily schedule somehow or other. Oh. Okay. Well, as I said, ultimately is to follow the order of Guru. If you can do that properly, then he'll be satisfied. And the ultimate order is to attain Krishna. So if you attain Krishna, you'll be very, very satisfied. So somehow or other, you be serious about your spiritual life so you can advance. That's the best ultimate thing. But it may be guided in certain services, that to do some sort of service. And if you can do that nicely, then very good. But ultimately, the whole idea behind that service is ultimately to get to Krishna. And you do the service, but you can't get to Krishna for some reason or other, then that's a failure also. So somehow or other, we have to practice so that we can advance in devotional service, increase our attraction to Krishna. And that will be pleasing to him.
I'm just wondering, what are the key skills Prabhupada has followed in the starting of this movement that he makes so many devotees and even he transforms
Okay, so actually Prabhupada said, the reason I'm successful is because I follow the order of my guru. And his order of his guru was you preach Krishna consciousness everywhere. So that's in relation to that, and he quotes this verse from Vishnu Chakravarti that you should have one-minded focus on the order of guru. So he quotes that. That was his inspiration to that. Say, okay, I'm preaching, but in India, not much success. I'll try preaching in the West. So then he managed to get a ticket on the boat, and he went to America, and he started there. 1 year, nothing really happened. But then he kept trying and trying and trying, and then suddenly he got effect. So they says, all because I'm just trying to follow the order of Guru. So Guru is merciful to me. Therefore, I get some results. So when we do that, of course, ultimately the mercy is coming from Krishna. But if we try hard for Krishna, then Krishna will do something for us and make some arrangements for us. Okay, 5 o'clock. One more. Yeah. Can you get advanced move without taking initiation? Yeah. In one sense, yes, because Lord Chaitanya, when he's preaching, he says that the process is chanting the holy name. Harinama eva kevalam. So he doesn't say diksha, 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 or, guru, guru, guru. He says that the main thing is chanting the holy name, and the holy name is not dependent on diksha, because it's given out freely. Yeah. However, that doesn't mean that in order to get prema, we can do it with ignorance. We need knowledge also. So therefore, we do have to accept instructions. We do have to get knowledge from the scriptures. We can't whimsically do it. So we do have to, if you're serious about getting the knowledge, then you read all the books. You take advice from devotees in your guidance. And yeah, you can get, because through chanting the holy name is non-different from Krishna. So the perfection of chanting is to realize Krishna in the name. So that's the perfection of life. Okay. Here's one more question.
There's so many gurus in our parampara. How do we celebrate everyone's birthday?
Oh. Yeah. Well, if we have a lot of money, of course, we could have celebration every day. But actually, we can do a lot of this mentally, in the mind. Yeah? So you can actually offer respects to everybody every day. You can, the whole Guru Parampara, you can offer a prayer every day. So that's a type of puja or worship also. You simply offer a prayer or respect to all the gurus. You could offer little flowers to everyone also. You could do that. So there's many ways we can do that without having to have big ceremonies for everybody.
If we attend to Golok Vrindavan, so in Shastra says Guru engaged disciples in Krishna service. So since Guru are here in this material world, so how that soul will get life in the spiritual world?
Oh, well, yeah. And the thing is that devotional service is a continuous process, birth after birth, even after we get perfection. And in each lifetime, we may not even get the same guru. Yeah. So next lifetime, I'm born in some family somewhere. I become a devotee. I'll get another guru. The next lifetime, I'll get another guru, which is going to be 100 years from now down the line. And it's going to, all different people are going to be there, have a different guru. So for many lifetimes, maybe 50 lifetimes before I get prema, I'll have 50 different gurus. But nothing wrong with that, because ultimately all the gurus are related to each other and related to Krishna. Everybody's related to Krishna, one big happy family. So therefore one is equal to the other in one sense. So we can say, well, how can this guru know about what that guru is going? But spiritually speaking, there's no problem for that. Just as Krishna knows everything about everybody, So he can make arrangements so that you can advance nicely in each lifetime. And he can also give guidance to each guru so that you can advance according to what is proper for you at that time.